إنك لا تهدي من أحببت ولكن الله يهدي من يشاء.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi, it's John Fontain. Just before, after your experience in Medina, I speak to many students who have, graduated. Maybe they've spent 6, maybe 7, maybe at a push 10 years, and it's difficult to leave after 10 years. Traveling back to the States after 21 years must have been difficult, Sheikh, subhanAllah.
I can specifically talk about some of the claims that were made in an article that was written by Daniel Haqiqatjou about Yaqeen Institute, because a good friend of mine sent me that article and asked me right before Ramadan. He asked me what I thought about the article, and so I skimmed it very quickly. I skimmed the article very quickly. It came off as kind of tabloidish with the pictures and the this and the that. And some things caught my eye, and I felt immediately that there was some exaggeration there. So I told the brother, I said, look, I'm not going to have a chance to look at this, in any detail, definitely until at least after Ramadan, but I will try to get to it. And then I'll take my time to try to look at some of these, the criticisms that have been made, because I think the approach that we as Muslims should take in general is that approach that was taught to us by Amir al-Mu'mineen, Umar ibn al-Khattab, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, who said, Rahimallahu imman ahda ilayya uyubi. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on the one who gives a gift. He gifts for me. He shows me my faults. So I think that our approach should always be, okay, if I'm criticized, whether it's me as a person, whether it's John Fontain or this guy, that guy, and somebody's criticizing, to take a step back, try to look at it as unbiased as possible. Now, obviously, if you're involved, there's an emotional element to it, but you do have to try your best to be unbiased, because there may be things that are in fact valid. So I would tell you that I looked at a summary of the critiques, and I was very disappointed. I'll be honest with you, I was very disappointed because I have spoken with Daniel before once. I don't have like any long-standing relationship with him, but I don't have a bad relationship with him or anything like that. So I was disappointed by what I saw to be, academic dishonesty, like a lack of integrity, in fact, in presenting the information. So, and I'll give you some examples, because these ones I actually know. Now, if there's some specific claims that you think need to be addressed, then you can ask and maybe, but I'll give you an example. There was a paper that was written about evolution, but not human evolution from Adam and Eve, right? Anyway, long story short, the paper itself I hadn't initially read, but I saw the line where Daniel quotes the author saying that Adam and Eve are, mythical figures or something along those lines, right? So basically, his claim is that Yaqeen Institute, he says, for example, on this particular post, that, do you know that Yaqeen Institute says that Adam and Eve are mythical figures? And I was like, that's kufr. Like, let's not sugarcoat it. If we say that Adam and Eve, who are Adam is specifically mentioned in the Quran, and Adam and Eve, who are specifically mentioned in Sunnah of the Prophet, if we say that they are mythical figures, that's cool. So I went back to the article, and I was astonished, because what the author actually said was, if one were to argue that Adam and Eve are, mythical figures, okay? Basically, he's saying, then that would invalidate their argument that says that science can disprove their existence, right? So this is what the author is saying. Not only is he saying for argument's sake, he actually puts if at the beginning of his sentence. In the quote, if you look at the article that's published against Yaqeen, they cut off the if and capitalize the letter of the next word, making it look like that is the beginning of the sentence. Okay, so even if you're quoting, if you're quoting somebody else and they have a capital letter and you want to put it in the beginning of your sentence, right? Then you have to put that in between brackets. Or if they have a lowercase letter and you want to put it at the beginning of the sentence, then you have to put that in brackets to indicate, that you're quoting. No, erase the entire word if, okay? And then capitalize the next letter and cut off the end of the sentence to make it look like the author was saying that Adam and Eve are mythical figures. That is dishonest. And the reason why that was really disappointing to me is because this is being done in the name of preserving the deen, of protecting Islam. Since when do we protect Islam with lies? So, it's even so deep, and I have a few other things I need to say about this topic because it is really important for us to understand the scope of things. The scholars of Hadith, almost across the board, would accept the narrations of the people of Bid'ah with conditions. Right? So with the condition that the hadith that was being narrated does not support the bid'ah that this person was accused of, right? Because then it may seem like, he's actually narrating the hadith to just support his particular view on something. And that he not be a caller to his bid'ah and so on and so forth. So there were stipulations. But the point is, they would accept with conditions the narration of al-hadith. With the narrations of Ahlul Bidah. When it comes to the liars, they don't accept the narrations. When it comes to people who lie, even if they were lying to or deceiving their animals, like if they were tricking, like some of the scholars of Hadith, when they would see like somebody trick his mule into doing something, make it seem like he had food when he didn't have food, they wouldn't accept Hadith food. So if a person lies on the Prophet, they would call him a kadhab. Okay, a kadhab. If a person, which literally translates as a perpetual liar, right? If somebody was known to lie, but not on the Prophet but they were known to be deceptive and lie, then that person would be called muttaham bil kadhib. He is accused of lying. Now, why is this point important? It's important because lying has always been seen. That type of deception has always been seen as a disqualifier. We don't take knowledge from you. So what happened, and I'm going to tell you, I came across another one where he put in quotation marks, Yaqeen Institute says that people have, in quotation marks, God-like powers. John, you or whoever else, you can search the 150 some odd articles that are on Yaqeen Institute's website. You will not find anything close to claiming that people have God-like powers. That is shirk akbar. Takes you outside of the millah of Islam. And nobody said that. The article that he's referring to, and the wording could have been better, but basically this person was talking about, from what I remember, this person was talking about at-takhalluq bi akhlaqillah, right? Which is, in other words, taking on the characteristics that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has. Now, that terminology is debatable. Some of the scholars of Islam use it, other scholars of Islam don't think it's good to use. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala talks about it extensively. And he says that there are certain characteristics that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has that he loves for us to emulate. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Jameel, wa yuhibbul jamal. He is beautiful and he loves beauty. Allah azza wa jalla is Rafiq, wa yuhibbul rifq. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is gentle and he loves for us to be gentle. So, and Allah azza wa jalla is merciful and he loves for us to show mercy, right? So this is what we're talking about when we talk about emulating those characteristics of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How you get God-like power out of that is beyond me from an intellectual standpoint. But then it is academic dishonesty to put that in between quotation marks, because you're making somebody believe that somebody actually said that.
Yeah.
Another example, and again, the reason why I'm familiar with this is because specifically a brother who's close to Daniel, who happens to be a friend of mine, sent me the article and he said, please, I'd like to know, what you think about it. So I'm going to finish another couple points. I actually did a review for Yaqeen Institute of an article called Difference of Opinion, Where Do We Draw the Line? Or something like that. Okay? John, I am encouraging you to read that paper. It was a good paper. It lays out the methodology of Ahl Sunnah in interpreting texts. It talks about where those red lines are that we can't cross, where we don't disagree. It really does do a good a good job of laying that out academically. And I happen to, alhamdulillah, be one of the people who reviewed that article. And in that article, the author talks about al-wala wal-bara, right? And he talks about, some key concepts related to affiliation and disassociation and who we show love for and who we show enmity for and so on and so on. To paint this picture with these big subtitles, Yaqeen Institute says that al-wala wal-bara is the aqidah of ISIS, or is a methodology of ISIS, or something like that. And basically saying that at Yaqeen Institute, there's this push for eliminating anything known as al-wala wal-bara. And also that takfir is foreign to Islam. Like, this is the claim that's being made of Yaqeen Institute. And Yafi, honestly, if you go back and even if you look at the stuff that Daniel's quoting, you don't understand that. Even from the stuff that he's quoting, not to mention the stuff that he doesn't quote, that he just makes kind of reference to. And what it was actually saying is that ISIS and their types make takfir of anybody who don't agree with their way, right? And that is contrary to Islam. Not that takfir as a concept is contrary to Islam, but that this one-time, application of takfir is foreign to the way of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Because I've also gotten the same, things probably that you have gotten. People have sent me things. Well, how can you work with Yaqeen after this article, for example? And it's just like, okay, fair enough. I mean, let's. I feel like I know what Yaqeen is because I'm there on the other side, right? I'm not on the receiving social media side. I'm on the side where we coordinate research, where we review the articles, where we don't accept certain articles, where, to the end of it. Like, I'm on that side of the fence. So I feel like I know what Yaqeen Institute is, but obviously I'm not on social media. Like, I don't do Facebook, Instagram, whatever else is out there, TikTok, and whatever else is going on. I'm just not my flavor. The last thing that I mentioned here, and I'm sure there are many other things. I was really disappointed. And I'm going to say something else about that in a second. But the last point here that I felt was it was totally disqualifying, if you will, is he at one point he says that there's this author who is promoting liberalism, right? And so he brings this quote, and the quote was pretty damning, I will say. Like, it was like, wow, that's not a good look, right? If somebody actually did write that and it was published by Yaqeen Institute, there needs to be a retraction. It was like one of those things. So I go back And I look at the quote. And there it is. There's a part at the beginning of the paragraph where the author says, I don't accept, this form of liberalism because of ABCD, right? And then he says at the end of the paragraph, so this is in summary why this form of liberalism is totally incoherent and so on and so forth. So Daniel takes the middle and he says, Yaqeen says A, B, C, D. Well, the author said, I don't agree with A, B, C, D. But here he comes and he quotes it. Now, could somebody else have been, collecting the data for Daniel and he just didn't know? It's possible. But once you put your name on it, not only is it unacceptable, it happened several times. It became a pattern. And so I will just tell you, it's one of those things where now it makes it difficult for me to, you're talking about 50,000 words, right? I am now in a position where I can go back and look at these articles, and if something, needs to be changed, something needs to be pulled or something like that, then, inshallah, I can make certain suggestions, right? But I can't trust the information now. So even if he comes and he says, here's another 100 mistakes, right? He comes next week and he says, okay, forget everything I wrote up. Here's another 100 mistakes. How can I trust that information? Now, the thing is, John, the reality is that are there mistakes? You got to understand, the Yaqeen Institute is 4 years old, right? It's still, and I don't want to say infancy, but it's still in its beginning stages. And there were so many moving pieces in the beginning. I was not a part of that process. They had not solidified their peer review process from the beginning. Well, alhamdulillah, that has come a long way now, right? So to get to the point, I don't think that everything that Daniel says is a lie or everything that he says is dishonest. But some of it, without a doubt, has fallen into that category. Look, think about it like this. Allah says in the Quran, قُلْ إِنْ كَانَ لِلرَّحْمَنِ وَلَدٌ فَأَنَا أَوَّلُ الْعَابِدِينَ. Say, if Ar-Rahman had a child, then I would be the first one to worship him, right? Now, in the Arabic language, you can say لِلرَّحْمَنِ وَلَدٌ, and that's a full sentence. The Ar-Rahman has a child. And Allah said in the Quran, لِلرَّحْمَنِ وَلَدٌ. Allah has a child, right?
Yeah, you can't do it.
But you can't do that. Because Allah said, if Allah, and this is basically what Daniel's doing, when you're removing the name, I personally don't think that anybody should promote him as a person right now. I think that he really needs some time away from the spotlight for his own soul, so that he can start to really look at, okay, what am I going to stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with? The honor of a Muslim is sacred. Let's start there. I mean, even the scholars of hadith, right, who are now protecting literally protecting the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so that they can come to us as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, right? Even then, they were very cautious about how they spoke about people, about the ruwat, right? Please, just stay with me for a second. And I'm saying that the honor of your brother in Islam, the honor of your sister in Islam is sacred. You can't just, talk about people without certain knowledge. Now, to go on top of that and make it look like people have said things that they actually haven't said, that's a very dangerous quality. And I'm saying that the brother may need to just step back from social media for a minute, reevaluate his life. If I was to die today, am I comfortable standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with this I've said, with that I've done? Okay? And fine. Once you've done your own set of muhasabah, that's between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then come back and do things that are going to be beneficial to the ummah.